On this episode of Old Joe's Reminiscence, when a human is spotted riding a horse while on a mission to save an ape's life, getting caught could cost him his life. The Horse Race was the 9th episode of the Planet of the Apes series to air, broadcast over CBS Television's network stations on November 8, 1974. And once again, I'll assume that I was watching Chico and the Man on NBC that night, because I don't remember seeing a Planet of the Apes episode about a horse race. This episode formed the first half of the third 1980s TV movie, Treachery and Greed on the Planet of the Apes. I've been downloading the scripts to help identify characters and to make a few other comparisons. The only script available for this episode was a second draft copy dated September 16th, 1974. Since it's not a final draft, I don't expect there to be a whole lot of similarity to the finished product. I also took a brief look at IMDb. I see that John Hoyt, Dr. Boyce from the Star Trek pilot The Cage, is returning for a second appearance as Prefect Barlow. He was the ape who had been in charge of the Gladiator games back in episode 2. I'm guessing he's into horse racing now. Mark Lenard is back again in his role as Urko, and are you ready for this? It should come as no surprise that Ron Stein is back in his 6th episode. Keep an eye out for him as an uncredited cage guard. Eldon Burke is another name I recognize. I mentioned him in my review of The Deception, and I've discovered that he appears in various minor roles in a total of 11 out of the 14 Planet of the Apes episodes that were produced. The only filming location listed for this one was the 20th Century Ranch in Malibu Creek State Park, so I guess they won't be racing along any sandy beaches in this one. And that's about as far as I like to dig before watching it to avoid spoilers. And if you want to avoid spoilers, I suggest that you watch the episode now before continuing with my deep dive review, because once I climb up into the saddle, there will be a veritable stampede of spoilers as we mosey on through The Horse Race. The episode opens with a typical establishing shot of an ape village in Malibu Creek State Park. We hear some horses approaching. Flags are tied to sticks that seem to mark a path of a horse race course. Among the groups of spectators, General Urko is played once again by Mark Lenard. The crowd cheers as the horses gallop past. Urko's nervous host is a chimpanzee prefect who's being played by film director Henry Levin in his only acting role, which is odd. The prefect seems upset that he's been coerced into a wager. He stands to lose half of his horses and half of his land to Urko if his horse loses to Urko's undefeated horse and rider. And Urko never loses. We get a glimpse at why Urko doesn't lose as the race continues. There's plenty of gorilla cheating. One gorilla is hiding behind a bent-back tree limb. As the riders pass, the ape lets it fly into the face of the chimpanzee jockey, played by Eldon Burke. I noticed a bit of sloppy film editing here, because there's a shot there's only one rider visible, and I was thinking that the prefect's rider may have fallen off. But then we see that that rider is right behind the leader in the next shot. They're just about at the finish line when Urko starts gloating.
Well, better luck next year.
Then Urko's horse throws a shoe and, surprise, the prefect's horse wins. Urko is a poor loser. His jockey is Kagan, played by Wesley Fuller in his one and only screen role. He informs Urko of the thrown shoe, and the gorilla general wants to blame someone for that.
I want that horse shod in time for the next race in the village of Benton. If this happens again, I won't just kill the blacksmith, I'll kill you too.
Speaking of blacksmiths, the three fugitives, Galen, Virdon, and Burke, are pitching in and doing chores at another blacksmith's hut. The men are helping the blacksmith because the man had given them food. That blacksmith is named Martin, and he's played by Morgan Woodward, who had portrayed both Dr. Simon Van Gelder and Captain Tracy in Star Trek a few years earlier.
Thomas Morgan Woodward was born on September 16, 1925 in Fort Worth, Texas. He took an early interest in airplanes, earning his pilot's license at the age of 16. He flew for the Army Air Corps in World War II and the Military Air Transport Command in Korea. He majored in music and drama at Arlington State College. Later, he got a business degree from the University of Texas in 1948. He sang with a jazz band and hosted a local radio show before moving to Hollywood. His big break came in 1956 when Morgan landed the role of Alex in The Great Locomotive Chase. He was known for performing in westerns, but he started to branch out in the mid-1960s. One of his most notable performances was as Boss Godfrey in the 1967 motion picture Cool Hand Luke. He claimed that Star Trek's Dr. Simon Van Gelder was his most physically and mentally demanding role. He's best known for his portrayal of Punk Anderson on 55 episodes of Dallas. Morgan Woodward died at the age of 93 on February 22, 2019.
Galen is talking with a young man named Gregor. Gregor is played by acting newcomer Megan King.
Megan King was born off-Broadway on March 30, 1954. When he was 6 years old, Megan, along with brothers Michael and Rip, appeared on an episode of Gunsmoke with their father, Wright King. Of the three, Megan was the only one of the King children who became interested in film. He attended Cal State Northridge where he began acting on stage. He starred in a few stage plays before looking toward television, appearing in TV commercials before moving toward guest performances. His role as Gregor in the 1974 Planet of the Apes television series was Megan's first credited on-screen appearance. He appeared as Pete Curtis in 32 episodes of the NBC daytime soap opera Days of Our Lives. Things were looking up for Megan until a car accident put him out of commission for an extended period of time. Following his lengthy recovery, Megan stayed involved in both television and stage production by working behind the scenes. Megan King is 70 years old.
The sound of horses' hooves signals that apes are approaching. It's a group of Urko's gorillas bringing that horse that had thrown the shoe.
This is Urko's favorite horse. He's thrown a shoe.
I'll take care of him well, sir.
You will if you want to keep on living.
There are so many gorillas in this episode that I'm unable to reliably tell who's who. Now, since he has stripes, and my information says only one character should, I think that's Xandar, played by Richard Devon.
Richard Devon was born in Glendale, California on December 11, 1926. Dick wanted to be an actor from a young age after playing a part in a school play as a first grader. His family was poor, with his father's sole income coming from his job as a waiter in a Los Angeles cafe. Dick took a job working in the stables at Griffith Park to help the family get by. He couldn't afford the tuition to attend drama school, but Stage 8 let him work it off by doing odd jobs such as painting and building sets. He appeared on early broadcasts from an experimental television station located in the Hollywood Hills. He began taking odd jobs around Hollywood studios on the chance that someone might notice him. Richard's first motion picture performance came in 1952 when he appeared as Kirk Flamer in the B-film Scorching Fury. He found steady work playing cowboys, outlaws, lawmen, and eventually a gorilla. Richard retired from acting in the early 1990s after performing more than 100 roles. Richard Devon died on February 26, 2010 at the age of 83.
The gorilla with a bit of a New York accent, who mentions some sightings of a human riding a horse, could be Zelo. Zelo is played by New York-born Joe Tornatore in an uncredited role. He'd also played a gorilla in the Planet of the Apes motion picture in 1968. After the apes ride off, Martin grabs Gregor by the arm to scold him.
How many times have I warned you?
Being seen is not being caught. Don't worry, Father. I'm careful.
You're not careful. You just won't believe anything can harm you.
Martin wants his son to give his word that he won't go riding again. Gregor seems about to say that he can't make that promise when he's suddenly interrupted. Galen cries out from inside the blacksmith's hut. It seems he's been stung by a tiger scorpion. Virdon and Burke grab a rope to form and apply a tourniquet. Martin says that it's no use. Without an antidote, the sting of a tiger scorpion is always fatal. He adds that the nearest clinic with an antidote is 5 miles away. Burke suggests that he borrow one of the horses. Then Gregor offers to go instead. He knows a back way.
Believe me, I know a back way. I can be there and back in no time. You'd never make it and Galen'll die.
It's not long before he ties the horse to a bush and runs into the clinic, where he asks the nurse for the scorpion antidote. She seems suspicious of the youth, but she gives him the antidote anyway. There's conflicting data concerning who played that uncredited nurse. IMDb says that the role is played by Lorraine Keeling, while the Planet of the Apes wiki lists Adriana Shaw in the role. When Gregor gets back to where he'd hidden the horse, he finds that Urko's gorillas have decided to set up their camp just beyond that bush where he'd tied the animal. Uh-oh. Gregor is trapped. There's an extreme close-up of Xandar, who seems to hear something. Then Gregor decides to ride right on through the ape's camp to escape. Xandor orders a gorilla to shoot the human, and he's rightfully upset when that shot misses. The gorillas prepare to give chase. We cut to the blacksmith's hut. Martin, Virdon, and Burke are waiting nervously. Gregor finally arrives, allowing Virdon and Burke to administer that oral antidote. Then Martin notices a bullet wound on the horse's shoulder. I'd thought it was Urko's prize-winning horse at first. They looked similar. But, upon further reflection, from the time it was dropped off until Galen was stung, there wasn't any time to shoe that horse. So I guess I was mistaken. Virdon takes a look at the bullet wound. He says it's not too bad, and he attempts to dig the bullet out with Martin's knife. Then they hear horses approaching. It's that band of 4 gorillas. They're looking for the human who they saw riding the horse. Virdon accepts the blame, rather than see the young Gregor punished. After all, Gregor had only risked getting caught to save Galen's life. 2 of the gorillas grab Virdon and prepare to take him away to be shot. But Gregor stands up. He says that he was the one they were after. The gorillas grab Gregor. Martin protests, but he's kicked to the ground. Gregor is then thrown over a horse's back.
Very, very foolish. You'll be invited to witness the execution as part of the celebration after the race.
The humans can only watch as the gorillas ride away with their prisoner. Act 2 opens with Gregor in an odd cage on wheels. A human enters the home of Prefect Barlow, who we'd met in episode 2 when he was in charge of the gladiator games. The human is his servant, Damon, played by Russ Marin, who'd appeared in scores of television shows and a handful of films during his lengthy acting career. Damon is delivering the saddle for the Prefect's horse in advance of the race against Urko's horse. Prefect Barlow has all but given up, though, since Urko's horse always wins.
Yes, and the stakes. Half my lands and half my horses if I lose. And of course I'll lose.
Back at the blacksmith shop, Virdon and Burke tell Martin that they want to do something to help young Gregor. They say they'll go to the village and talk to the prefect.
Well, tell him Gregor was only riding that horse to save an ape's life.
The prefect will not listen to humans.
Well, then we'll try something else.
Even so, they want to go and have a look around. Virdon asks Martin if they'll need any identification, and Martin says that Prefect Barlow lets humans come and go freely.
Barlow.
Barlow?
Galen.
What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in bed. Oh, no, I'm fine. Tell me, is that the same Barlow who used to be prefect at Kamak?
Yes, that's what they say.
Since Galen is too weak to walk the 5 miles to the village, he asks to borrow a horse. Virdon and Burke will have to walk behind him.
Be sure to maintain a respectful distance behind me.
In the village, I'm surprised at the number of extras that they had cast for that scene. Galen, with Virdon and Burke jogging behind, rides past a cage guard. That guard is played by actor stuntman Ron Stein, appearing in the 6th of his 11 Planet of the Apes episodes. I wouldn't think Prefect Barlow would be very happy to see these fugitives. They ask Barlow to appeal to Zeus for the release of Gregor, since he'd been on a mission to save an ape. They explain that he was only riding the horse to save Galen's life.
For saving Galen's life?
It's a wonder the horse didn't throw the boy. These laws protect humans as well. Only apes know how to handle horses.
Barlow discounts it when Virdon says that he grew up around horses. He's been riding since he was 7 years old. Burke adds that Virdon is about as good as anybody.
You telling the truth?
My friends don't lie.
They might have just convinced the prefect. He says that he wants to see Virdon ride. We cut to a couple of men trying to wrangle a wild, untamed horse. It's never been ridden.
Even without a rider, he runs like the wind, but he's a killer. No ape has been able to ride him.
Virdon's sense of self-preservation starts to kick in, but the prefect reminds him that he could prove very helpful to them.
If you can ride him, I'll be very helpful to you.
Virdon reluctantly agrees.
All right, I'll do it.
Good. Saddle him up, Martin.
Next, in a series of tight close-ups of Ron Harper, mixed with long shots of his stunt double, we see Ellen Virdon bronco busting and then riding that tamed horse around in a corral. They break out for a short run before Virdon brings the broken horse back into the corral. Barlow's never seen a horse run quite so fast. He proposes that Virdon ride Woda in the big race coming up. Barlow says he'll arrange it with Zeus so that the human can ride in the race. He promises to release Gregor if Virdon wins the race.
You ride Woda, and I'll get Zeus to pardon your friend Gregor. That is, if you win.
Okay, you got it.
Urko storms into Prefect Barlow's office to confront him about his ridiculous scheme to use a human jockey in the race. He suggests raising the stakes of their wager. If Barlow's horse loses, Urko wants all of the prefect's horses and all of his land as well. Barlow really has no choice but to accept the altered wager agreement. Then he suggests that if his horse should win, he would be transferred back to the village at Kamak, his previous assignment. Urko agrees. What does he have to lose? Later on, the prefect, Galen, and Burke are discussing what will happen once Urko finds out that it's Virdon who's riding in the race. They're disappointed that Barlow would betray them.
I was forced into this race, and my entire future depends on it.
Barlow brings up Urko's cheating, to which Burke decides to come up with some ways to even the odds. Out along the race path, Galen watches as Burke digs a hole. The chimpanzee is carving something out of wood. He spins it, and it makes a noise. Back at the blacksmith shop, Virdon urges Martin to pound Woda's shoes thinner and lighter than the average horseshoe. Meanwhile, Urko is out directing his guerrillas to set traps for his opponent. Back at the blacksmith shop, Virdon is finally satisfied with the set of thinner, lighter shoes. He saddles up for a test ride. Martin doesn't like the odds. He knows that Urko's horse always wins. He wants to beg Urko to let Gregor go and to shoot him instead.
I'm going to ask him to let me take Gregor's place. I don't care what happens to me. This way, you won't have to ride, you'll be out of danger, and so will Gregor.
Urko and his apes are unwinding at their camp. They're going over their nefarious plans for the race. Morrow, played by returning actor Peter Ireland, says he'll drop a net. Urko warns that it had better work. He orders Zelo to be ready 50 yards before the finish line. He's to shoot the human rider if he's winning by that point. During Urko voicing his instructions to kill Virdon, Martin shows up with the general's prize racehorse. He tells Urko that he shod both horses and that he knows how to ensure a win for Urko. He suggests that he can slow the prefect's horse if Urko decides to set Gregor free.
I know how to fix his shoes with wedges. It'll cause great pain and slow him down. I know where to put them, and it wouldn't be found out until too late.
Martin leaves. Then Urko orders Xander to release the human so he can be shot trying to escape. Then he amends his previous orders for what to do during the race.
If the human is winning, kill him before he reaches the finish line. If the human is losing, kill him after he reaches the finish line. Just a matter of when.
Urko pauses to admire his horse.
Magnificent horse. I love racing!
The final act opens with race day festivities, such as a tumbler, Bill Harrison. Urko looks around. He gets a nod from Martin, who must have sabotaged Woda's horseshoes. Urko loves gloating, and he does plenty of that. He makes a point of noting that the prefect's human jockey isn't there yet.
The race won't begin for a while yet.
It's all right if he doesn't turn up. I don't mind winning by default.
The fugitives are hiding in some brush nearby. Virdon can see Martin working to settle the horse, and he doesn't like the way Woda's behaving for the man. Virdon approaches the horse, shading his face to avoid being recognized. Oh, and that thing that Galen was carving turns out to be a noisemaker meant to distract Urko whenever he gets too inquisitive. When Virdon is in the saddle, he yanks back on the reins, causing Woda to rear up, throwing him off into a mud puddle. Remember that hole that Burke was digging? I thought he was making some kind of a trap for their opponent. Nope, it's filled with water now, and the mud will help to hide Virdon's true identity from Urko.
Hey, that's great. You look awful. Urko would never recognize you.
Virdon confronts Martin, who denies that anything is wrong with Woda. He says good luck, and he takes off. Virdon checks Woda's hooves, where he finds painful metal wedges installed. He'll have to remove them, but that'll take time. Urko wants to know what's holding things up.
Races never start on time.
But this one does.
The ape official who calls for the start of the race is played by Texas-born Tom McDonough. Tom made more than 100 screen appearances, not counting his 22 episodes of Gunsmoke. Virdon is just about finished removing those wedges when the official fires the starting gun. He's going to have a lot of catching up to do. Burke learns from Martin that Urko has a gorilla posted to shoot Virdon if he's winning the race. Uh-oh. At the end of the first lap, Virdon is quite a bit behind the ape rider, but he's catching up. Then Woda jumps into that hole the gorillas had dug in the trail. Both the horse and its rider go down. When Urko's horse and its rider finish their second lap around the circuit, Virdon is nowhere in sight. I don't see how Virdon could ever come back after losing so much time, but apparently Prefect Barlow has high hopes.
I'm going to win, I'm going to win.
On the final lap, Virdon has a net dropped on him. He shrugs it off and it barely slows him down. Then Virdon starts gaining on Urko's rider. As Virdon tries to pass, the ape rider uses his riding crop on Virdon, who eventually pulls it away from the ape. The gorilla with the rifle at the finish line is getting ready to shoot Virdon. He's lining up his shot when Galen gleefully places a scorpion on the gorilla's shoulder. The gorilla is frozen with panic, unable to shoot. When Virdon crosses the finish line, Urko recognizes the fugitive. He and his gorillas start firing their weapons, and they all miss, of course.
That was Virdon. Your jockey, your human jockey was Virdon the fugitive.
Is that a fact? Oh, well, it has nothing to do with our bet.
Taking advantage of the melee that ensues after that, Galen and Burke make their getaways. The gorilla guarding Gregor unlocks the cage and tells the boy to run.
Why should I run if I'm supposed to be free?
You run because I tell you to run.
No, something's wrong.
The guard then threatens to shoot Gregor in the cage if he doesn't run. Burke shows up just in time to save Gregor. Then he hops on Woda with Virdon as the horse passes by. Galen jumps on top of the cage and drives it away with Gregor inside. So I guess that explains why the cage was on wheels. Burke transfers from Woda onto that cage and they ride off into some brush. Then Virdon lures the pursuing gorillas away. When he doubles back around, the fugitives send their riderless animals off. Urko and his band of gorillas chase those loose animals in futility. The gorillas eventually meet up with Prefect Barlow, who's riding back to Kamak. He claims to know nothing about the three fugitives. But Barlow meets up with them next. Since Martin and Gregor wouldn't be safe staying in the area, Barlow offers to take them along with him to Kamak.
You two may come and live with me in Kamak. There you'll be safe. But you are not to ride on horses
Yes, Prefect.
when I'm watching.
Thank you, Prefect.
As usual, they all say their goodbyes, and the three fugitives head off toward their next adventure on the Planet of the Apes.
This episode is totally ridiculous. Every ape knows that humans can't ride horses. In fact, it would be foolish for a human to even try. The human body is weak, too delicate to withstand the high speeds and rigors of controlling such a powerful beast. And speaking of weakness and strength, once again, they depicted a human as the victor against an ape in an unarmed battle. Simply absurd. I don't know what the author was smoking when they wrote this episode. Next. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but do Urko soldiers have to miss every single shot? It's impossible. Totally insane. These riders should be rounded up and executed. Oh, wait. You'll probably want me to believe that every shot from the execution firing squad would miss. Ha!
Although it was the 9th episode to air, the horse race was the 11th of the 14 total Planet of the Apes episodes to be produced. The second draft script was of very little use, as I'd originally expected. In fact, there was hardly any resemblance at all until the gorillas dropped by the blacksmith shop for the first time. The opening scene was Virdon and Burke playing football with an oval piece of a tree. They hide from some gorillas, stumble upon an abandoned 20th century blacksmith shop that's still standing for some reason. They discover a wrapped Christmas gift of roller skates hidden in the furnace of that shop. They tell Galen about Santa Claus. They try the roller skates out, and Galen gets stung by the scorpion. Then, the gorilla scene at the blacksmith shop is pretty much as we saw it, but at the point where Galen shouts out, that's when the astronauts show up carrying the stricken ape. There was originally a female family member, Selah, Martin's wife, Gregor's mother, but her role was written completely out in a subsequent draft. She was supposed to care for Galen while Gregor rode for the antidote. From there, most of the story was fairly similar until the end of the episode, when Martin and Gregor were originally supposed to go home to Selah. Were we to believe that Urko and his guerrilla troops wouldn't go back to the blacksmith shop to hunt for Martin and Gregor? They'd probably kill Selah if they didn't find the men, and if they did, they'd kill everybody. So it worked better with her out of the picture, because there's nothing to hold the men there. Speaking of Gregor, I was impressed with Megan King's performance in his first screen role as an adult. He seemed relaxed but confident, playing a defiant teenager, perhaps inspired by the greatness of Morgan Woodward. I've read that the horse race was Ron Harper's favorite episode of the 14 they filmed. He already knew how to ride, having worked on a ranch when he was young, and I can understand that. I did chores around a neighbor's horse farm when I was a kid, and I got to ride their horses. As much fun as it was, it could also be dangerous. I was thrown several times. 2 stuntmen broke their legs working with the horses. Another sprained something that put him out of commission for the remainder of the shooting. Dr. Zaius is mentioned a few times, but he doesn't appear in the episode. Urko does appear, and if we ever hated Urko in previous episodes, we must despise him now that we see what a dirty, rotten, lying cheat he is. Urko's actor, Mark Leonard, enjoyed working on this episode, saying it was more fun and more relaxing to perform than most of the others. Raven Gray Eagle is back on the list of the cast. It's another uncredited minor role, and I still don't know what he looks like. I think I agree with Ron Harper and Mark Leonard. The horse race is a fun episode. What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments section if you would. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you'll know when I post my next episode of Old Joe's Reminiscence.